in English, and the AI will build the entire automation.
I've put together the most valuable lessons that have helped me achieve more out of my life. Hopefully, they're useful for you too. Enjoy. This is brutally honest advice for poor people. I've been there. I had to fucking pay rent. Every night I would think if I didn't wake up tomorrow, I would be okay with it. And I don't want that for anybody. I get it. I was just going through all these old files yesterday and I saw a goal that I'd written, which was to make $10,000 a month income. And so it was 13 years ago. And so like, I viscerally remember what that was like. And I know I was in so much pain during that time that I get it. And so like the reason we make this stuff is because I've been there and I don't want that for anybody. You know, like I missed my 20s. Like I didn't have them as people traditionally say it. You know, like it's weird because in today's like internet culture, like I started my first brick and mortar business, like store front. I was 23. Like I didn't know shit about fuck. Like I knew nothing. And like I didn't know you could hire employees. Like it wasn't a thought. Like I didn't know anything. And so like I cleaned, I did the billing, I did the sales, I taught the sessions. Like I fixed the equipment, like I did everything because I didn't know you could, and I didn't know, and I didn't have the money, frankly, to afford anything else. And so I get it. Like I get it. But to get out of that, you have to take steps. And the first step is saying that it's my fault. The second step is that you have to use what you have. And so in the beginning, I was reading the self-help books and all this stuff, and none of them really hit for me because a lot of it was like power of positive thinking and like affirmations and like all this stuff. And the reason that I make the content that I do now, which has now almost become like a shtick, countering that is because it didn't work for me. And I'm not trying to speak to everybody. If that works for you, then like, awesome. Like, awesome. Like people mistake me saying this is what worked for me with this is what I think everyone should do. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I'm saying if what you have been doing hasn't been working, then consider this, which is that like, I remember because I just read this yesterday. The intro in the book, I say, I wish I could tell you that the reason I was able to make it out of the gym was because I was like really passionate about changing people's lives, and I loved fitness, and I loved my clients' faces when they would light up and they'd step on the scale and they'd lose weight, they'd be able to fit in their high school clothes again. It was none of that. It was just the sheer anger that I had, but the idea of being wrong and having the people back home be right about everything. And I couldn't, I still can barely tolerate it. And so, I took, in some ways, and this isn't I don't know if woe is me is the right term, but like, I had an otherwise very successful career. Like, I was in a white collar job, and sometimes it's hard, like, hey, I don't know, I haven't been in the other situation, but taking a step down and humbling yourself to minimum wage after you've been in a white collar situation, not easy. And I remember I had clients who walk in and be like, oh, did you go to college? And they were saying that patronizingly. And mind you, everyone here, at least this channel, knows that I don't give a shit. But they were saying it to basically like, when I was gonna like write something down, like, am I literate? And in those moments, again, it was like, I could be right or be rich. Like I could try and humiliate them back because the pain of what they just said made me feel. They probably didn't even intend that. Or I can be like, yeah, I went to school. I'm very grateful for it. So what are your goals? And I could just move right past it. And so you develop that skin because I had to fucking pay rent. And so, I tell stories about having a kid drawing marker on the wall while I'm trying to close his mom, and he's writing in permanent marker, and I'm trying not to lose my shit over the fact that I'm gonna have to repaint the wall because she doesn't know how to parent a child, but I needed to close the card to pay for the paint. And so it's like I can scold the kid and lose the sale, or I can close the sale and keep my cool and then eventually clean the wall. And so like you only get that stuff by doing it. And so if you're in a place right now where you don't have a lot, you only have one thing, which is time. And so you have lower leverage. So I'm not going to lie to you and say that there's this one play, this one secret. No, it's sheer brute force. Like, you have to will yourself out of it. Like, you have to do, it's a huge amount of soul driving energy that you have to do outside of what you normally do. So it's like, you have to live one person's normal life. You have to do your normal work, your normal job. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to clean, you have to do whatever else. And then the workday starts. So that is how you eat today, but you're trying to get ahead and you have to eat tomorrow. And so you have to eat the glass so that you can take the pain today, and you're trying to take as much of the pain from tomorrow as you can today so you can get ahead. And like even the concept of getting ahead, I think about this visually, which is like, if you have this timeline of life that you can pull towards you, and it's glass in the beginning, and then it's slightly less coarse, and then less coarse, and then it gets neutral, and then it starts to get a little bit sweeter, and a little bit sweeter, and a little bit sweeter. But you have to get through that glass period where you pull it towards you. And I do have this theory that, like, on a long enough time horizon, if we could live 1,000 years, everyone would eventually be successful. But people wait too long and they die too early. And I say die too early on a long timeline. And so I have to live today and tomorrow and the next day, so I can live 3 days at a time, so I can get to my second and third life's benefits now. And so that was what, like, I remember the only times that I took off when I was at the gym. And one of the biggest things that I was grateful for with the gyms is that I moved across the country. And so I knew no one. I was in Huntington Beach, I was from Baltimore, like no one. And what would happen, so one of the gifts of that was that once the week was over, so my Saturday sessions were done at like noon, my phone didn't ring. No, like, in some ways, very sad, because like no one wanted to see Alex. You know what I mean? Like, no one was inviting me out. But I was like, well, fuck, like, I gotta make this work. And so I'd sit there and I'd be like, how do I sell memberships? How do I market? How do I everything, you know? But that was how I got ahead. And so I tell the stories of, like, I remember when I stopped watching the Ravens, and I was from Baltimore, so that was like a tie to home. And so, yeah, it's fresh for me because I just read the story yesterday, but it was tough.
We hired a big media agency last year to handle all of our meta ads. I spent well over 6 figures on their fee, and it didn't work out. And obviously my first instinct was Upwork to find us a freelancer before, because I have been working with Upwork for literally 6 years. If you're not familiar, Upwork is a platform where you can hire freelancers all over the world for a range of different things, from marketing to operations to creative work, all without committing to a full-time hire. There are over 125 categories, 10,000 advanced skill sets. So you're not just hiring a marketer, you're hiring someone who does exactly what you need. And then what I really like is being able to see real work history, reviews, and past results before making your hire. I literally just found a media buyer about 2 months ago. He's been working with us and it has been seamless. And for me, it was a reminder, even 6 years into running this business, that scaling is not always about spending more money or doing something that feels flashy and big. It's just about making the right hires. And you can do that with Upwork.
Need a UGC video for your business? Find me and many other skilled creators on Fiverr. Or you could grab a top camera, add good lighting to make everything pop. Learn the latest trends, stay updated, videos change fast. Plan your content, be consistent and creative. Know your platforms, adapt your content. Each one's different. Edit like a pro, cut, trim, and polish. Make it shine, but not too shine. It's still user-generated content. Or just find your next creator on Fiverr.
I'll catch my breath. So, all that to say, the sacrifices that I encourage people to take are not sacrifices I did not make. And I don't say that there's no ways to get there. I'm just saying that this is the way I got there. And if this path works for you, then maybe it works better than what you're doing right now, which is I had a lot of pain. And so I tried to use it. I just used what I had. I was just angry. I didn't want to fail. And so I just kept going. And so there was no there just wasn't another option. And so I think that's what I would encourage people to think about, was I didn't allow another option, because the other option was just worse than dying. Because, I mean, I've told this story before and things get hyperbolized. I mean, exaggerated, romanticized, whatever. But when I had my big consulting job, I was making good money and I had the approval of my peers and all this stuff. And I just didn't want to wake up the next day every day. And it wasn't like I was trying to kill myself. It wasn't that. But every night I would think, if I didn't wake up tomorrow, I would be okay with it. And so when I knew that was what I was going back to, if I didn't make this work, I had no plan B. I mean, I had plan B, is that I would drive Uber and strip. I joke about that. But that was very much my plan B if I didn't make it work. And I get grilled on social media for saying this because of fucking race wars, but there have been slaves for thousands of years. There were slaves in Egyptian times. There were Jews who were slaves. There were Persian slaves. There were white slaves. There were black slaves. Humans have enslaved one another, period. And I like to think of things in extremes because it allows me to think about what's possible. And so the idea that someone else at some other time in history has worked 7 days a week, every hour that they're awake, with the threat not of their own death, but of their children's death, because that's what I would do if I were trying to control somebody. I would take their kids and say, I'll kill them if you don't work. And guess what? They'll probably work. That capacity exists. And so I would think to myself, I would try and put myself in that frame so that I wouldn't get into the woe is me cycle and think, all these things I could blame for why I'm here right now. Why isn't this working as fast? How is it that these guys are making more money than me? Why don't these people give me the respect I deserve? Blah, 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 blah. And just say, what can I do now? And then just every hour of every day, well, what can I do now? And so it was, I have to learn how to market. I have to learn how to sell. I have to go to these groups where other gym owners are, and I got to learn their stuff. I gotta go to these seminars. I gotta save up so I can learn some stuff, and that's what I did. And so that's how I got out of it.
That visual of life as this bloody game of tug of war,
yeah,
where most people, their hands just get too cut to keep holding onto the rope is it's stuck in my head.
Yeah,
that's really powerful.
It was tough. So the first $100,000 is the hardest. And I know that sounds like an unfathomable amount of money. It took me 5 years. I get it. So you just have to save it $1 at a time. That's what it is. Now, obviously I talk about other things there are smarter ways to make money, for sure. If you can sell expensive stuff, you can just move the decimals. The thing is it is factually true. It is spiritually false. And I don't even believe in spirituality in general, but it is tough to sell a $10 million building and make $1 million commission or a $500,000 commission when you are broke as fuck. It is very, you would have to become a different person, which is why most people's first sale is not that. But is it technically possible? Yes. A lot of people watch YouTube and the internet for complex money-making skills, and they haven't even mastered showing up on time. And so it's they want to go straight to calculus, but they don't know how to do simple addition. But the thing is that simple addition is foundational to that. And none of the other stuff will matter unless you can do the basics. But the basics doesn't make them less important. Usually they're the foundation of building, which make them arguably more important. They just are simpler to understand, but not simpler to do. And I think that's the big disconnect a lot of people have, is that they think because they understand something conceptually, that they feel like they have already mastered the skill, which are two very different things. And so one of the most common traits that people who are poor have is that it's always tomorrow. And so they never talk about anything in terms of today. And so it's about starting tomorrow, the diet on Monday, next year, my New Year's resolution. It's always pushing off. So rather than delaying gratification, they delay pain. And so rather than trying taking pain now for pleasure later, they take pleasure now and pain later. And so they flip the equation. And so they're surprised when today is later from yesterday that they're in pain. Because if last week you were like, I'm starting my diet this week, then it is now this week, and you've delayed the pain to today. And that means that the body you have right now is the result of the delayed pain that you are now forcing yourself to endure. And so they're somehow surprised when the bill comes due that they pushed off from the past. And so the first lesson of getting out of poverty is 2 words. It's my fault. It's I have to own that. And I think my fault you can kind of extrapolate to right now. Not like, you basically have to own everything that passed to this moment. So all the pain that I've gone through, all of the Mondays that I've missed, all of the diets that I've skipped, all of the savings I haven't made, all of those are not my dad's fault, my mom's fault, my circumstances' fault, the country I was born in's fault, the zip code, any of those things' fault. It's just mine. And the thing is that people have this belief that because they have a strong argument for why it's something or someone else's fault, that somehow helps them. And it just doesn't. Because whatever you cast blame to is where you also cast power to. And so if I say, I can't succeed because my mom didn't love me, guess who controls me? My mom. And so if you also replace my mom with a race, a gender, a political party, whatever the thing, I can't succeed because of Trump's laws. I can't succeed because of the radical left, because of wokeism, because of whatever. You actually give that thing more power in your life than you give yourself. And so it's completely, the thing is that, and this is what's so deceiving about it, is it's very self-fulfilling, is that you get more evidence and then you get more confirmation, you get more evidence, you get more confirmation, and the more your life sucks, the more you're confirmed that you were right. But do you want to be right about the fact that your life sucks? Or would you rather, there's I think it's an old Zig Ziglar saying, he said you can either be right or you can be rich. And I mean, it's simple, but this is what he was getting at, is that you can say, you know what? You are right. Your dad kicked the shit out of you your whole life and you don't have any confidence because he told you you're a piece of shit every day. You're right. But in order to be rich, you need to let that go. Because every day you say that I'm not successful because of this, it means because this now owns you. And for me personally, that realization that the thing that I hated most in the world, the things that I blamed for why my life wasn't the way it was, I was their bitch. And just realizing that made me angry. But through that anger, I was able to say, well, fuck them. I will succeed despite the fact that my dad said this, or my mom said this, or Barack Obama said this, or Trump said this, or the woke left says what. Despite that, despite the fact that the chips are stacked against me, I will still win.
Why does saying my fault and taking that accountability begin to set someone down the path of making more money?
What you want to do is save hundreds when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance.
That's great, but can you ask your friend to stop digging into the green?
I can ask, but he's not going to. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
AI agents. Well, hey, don't be scared. Here's how Monday.com makes agents clear, easy, and user-friendly. First of all, they're gonna make our jobs much easier, and they're gonna take us to the next level. I manage our marketing team, so market research, content review, reporting, all these things that used to take up 60% of my day now happen instantly, and we just have to review and make small adjustments. Secondly, they're built on Monday.com, so you know you get the best-in-class security. And most importantly, for me, they're easy to set up and work with. So it's just like having super reliable and fun new teammates.
How did this change how I work? I can finally hit deadlines while getting better results and creating real impact.
Big props to Monday for making this happen.
And so if we think about success in terms of layers, like foundations, right? The base level, like when you're digging the building where you put the hole and you pour the concrete in, the base of the entire thing is who is in power? Who is source? Because if it's anything but you in that base layer, all of the other things on top of them will topple down. It's a foundation of sand otherwise. You can't build on top of blaming other people. There's nothing that stands on it. You see, like, I want to learn sales, but I can't learn sales because I didn't get hugged enough as a kid, and so I don't like people. And so as long as you keep holding on to that, you have sand as your foundation. But if you want to learn how to sell, or you want to learn how to market, or you want to learn how to do whatever, until you say, well, it's my fault that I don't know it, and because of that, it's within my power to change it.
So it's not sales books. It's not reading offers. It's not even your books.
At the very beginning, you have to accept that, which is the first two words: my fault, my responsibility, all me, I am source. And then once you can accept that one thing, and what's crazy is that one foundation is where 90% of people literally aren't. They're not there. They can't do it. The reason my girlfriend left me is because of this, not me. The reason I lost my job is because my employer was a dick. My boss sucked. Whatever, the economy. But it never serves you. Like, give me one instance, one example. This is to anyone who's listening to this. One example of when you blamed something else and it made you better. One. You can't find it because it's fundamentally not true. And so you cannot both desire to get better and also maintain blame. You have to pick.
When did this really hit home for you? Was it when you lost money?
No, when I was 19 years old, I had to write an essay about depression in an intro to psych class. And I don't talk about my mother very much, but I used to harp a lot. I was an equal opportunity angry person. I was angry at everybody. In other words, I blamed everyone. And so I blamed her for X, Y, and Z. And I remember having to write this essay on depression, and you had to do it from someone else's perspective. And so you had to say, how would the environment and their upbringing, things like that, contribute to the outcomes in their life? And so by writing the essay, true or not, to be clear, about my mother's upbringing and how hard she had as an immigrant coming here, getting beat up as a kid, getting made up for not being able to speak the language, all that kind of stuff. And this was in the fucking 50s. It's when it was more accepted to beat up foreigners rather than let them in. Anyways, so she had a tough time. And so it made sense. And when I framed it like that, I was like, maybe she's actually a massive success given where she started. And so then I thought to myself, now mind you, I still wasn't over it, but it was in this process that the first thing that happened is when I went back home for fall break or winter break, I remember she said something to me, which would normally just be the beginning of some big fight. You get into these routines. I'll say this thing that we both hate, and then we'll just get into a nice fight about it. And she said the trigger, and I was just like, I understand you. I'm sorry you went through the stuff you went through. And she just looked completely shocked and then just started bawling. And so I was like, we're cool. You don't anger me anymore. And I think for the most part since then, that's been more or less the dynamic that shifted. But leading into that was also the idea that all the relationships that I'd had that I'd blamed for not working because of the dynamic that I had with my mother, I was like, I am giving her this power over my love life. Ugh, that's gross. And so I was like,
So wherever you point the finger, blame, hate, criticism follows. Stop pointing at yourself because the only person that you can change is yourself.
I'd rather just say it's on me to change and not have my mom or parents at all involved in my relationships. And so that was me taking, it's her fault that I can't make these things work. I have commitment issues. I don't want to get close to people. I've been hurt before, blah, blah, blah. To okay, well, let's take it to the next extreme. Great, you're right. You'll never be close to anyone. You'll never have a relationship that'll last. You're right. Now what? I remember I was at a conference and I had this lady stand up in the crowd, and I had just done a thing on like, I don't remember what it was, call it offers. And she stood up and said, let me give you 6 reasons why this isn't gonna work for my business. And so she went down her list and I was like, So I got to the end of the whole thing and she said, and that's why this isn't gonna work for my business. And I was like, you're right, you'll never be able to make this work for your business. And she looked at me like angry. And she lashed back. She was like, yes, I will. I'll be able to make this work for my business for this reason, this reason. And so the thing is that like, if the victim frame is just taken to the natural extreme, you realize that you're right. You win the game. And by being right the entire time, you lose everything. And so it's one of these frames that I love. Dr. Kashey says this. He says, you're 99% right, but 100% wrong.
You're 99% right, but 100% wrong. Because you are entitled to your opinion, your perspective, your understanding, your beliefs. You're entitled to it all.
And what that means is like, for example, every time I bring a girl home and I want my parents' approval, I bring her home and they say, this isn't the one, this isn't the one, she's not good enough, whatever it is, every time. It's easy for them to say that because every single person you date, except for the one you marry, they are right on. And so they're 99% of the time they're right. And they're confirmed by saying that that person that you bring home is not good enough. Because every time, eventually you break up, oh, it's not gonna last. This isn't the one, it keeps going, right? But if you keep doing that all the way to the natural extreme, you're 100% wrong. Because you will be wrong eventually. And it's the same thing as like, I wanna start this business, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. The second one won't work, the 5th one won't work, the 7th one won't work. And they're right. But they're just wrong on the long enough time horizon because one of them will fucking work. And one of the girls or one of the guys that you bring home will be the one that you are gonna be with. But it's so much safer for them to be right and right and right. And they get deceived by their short-term rightness that they miss the long-term wrong. And we do this to ourselves too when you're in the victim frame. I don't even like using the victim frame, but when you're in the powerless frame. You give the power away and you get to be right over, that's why it didn't work, this relationship won't work, this job won't work. It's not gonna work this time either. Because you get to be right over and over again. It makes you feel good in the short term, but in the long term, you